Boxing Truth here. Want to talk a little bit about Danny Jacobs, as there is reports of his upcoming bout. Still nothing finalized. Everything's up in the air. Just trying to work out the details, and an announcement will be forthcoming. But I want to talk a little bit about Jacobs and how he is a paper champion in every sense of the word. It's even worse than compared to most other paper champions in the boxing world right now. It's worse than even Deontay Wilder or Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, those guys are 4 world champions. They won 4 world titles, and they actually beat somebody for those world titles. So those guys are legitimate world champions, paper champions, yes, but they have full world titles. But this is even worse for Daniel Jacobs. Let's be honest here. Daniel Jacobs is no champion. He's an imposter. Not a real champ. He's got a regular strap. To make matters worse, he won a vacant regular strap against Jared Fletcher, who's no world beater. Ever since Daniel Jacobs got iced by Dmitry Pirog, he's been fighting carefully selected opponents until recently stepping up against guys that can give you rounds like a Caleb Truax, well, at middleweight at least, and finally stepped up to a level where that he should be in order to be considered a contender or someone at the top of the middleweight division. He fought Sergio Mora, a pretty good fighter, tricky fighter. Was able to get a stoppage win as Mora hurt his ankle, and surprisingly got knocked down by Mora. Jacobs did, as Mora is not considered a big puncher. It's definitely not at the world class level. Then he finally iced Peter Quillin in less than about 90 seconds. And you would think, with the platform Haymon has, all these platforms, all these time buys, that Jacobs will be right back in the mix, right back in a bigger fight, more significant fight, or to at least stay inactive. But that hasn't worked out, hasn't gone according to plan. As Haymon's been making Jacobs look like a bitch, carrying around that bogus belt for almost 2 years, a regular champion. I mean, people don't acknowledge it in the boxing world, especially even fighters even. Billy Joe Saunders trashed Jacobs recently on social media, calling him a fake-ass champion, that you're not a real champ, and that he would whoop his ass. And right now, Haymon and Daniel Jacobs must hate Billy Joe Saunders at the moment right now, because it's him. It's Billy Joe Saunders that has foiled Haymon and Jacobs' plans for part of 2016. The plan wasn't for Billy Joe Saunders to gain a strap in defeating Andy Lee. Haymon and Jacobs were hoping for Andy Lee to win that fight against Billy Joe Saunders, as I believe Andy Lee's promoted by DiBella, and a unification, well, at least on paper, would have been ordered had Andy Lee defeated Billy Joe Saunders last December. It would have been the perfect fight for Jacobs. In order to get more hardware, perhaps get more of a claim that he's one of the 2, maybe top middleweights, had he looked impressively against Andy Lee. I mean, that was supposed to be the plan. He was supposed to unify the titles, at least on paper, for the start of the year. Get that shot against Andy Lee. It would have been easy work for Daniel Jacobs, because I know why Haymon wanted to make that fight, because he knows, just like I know, that Andy Lee is shot, can't pull the trigger, and is also chinny. Perfect opponent for Danny Jacobs to take advantage of, to fight a chinny guy, as Jacobs is punching very hard now, especially in his 2015 campaign. He's fully rehabilitated from the loss to Dmitry Pirog, has had a lot of confidence building bouts, was stepping up in class in his last 2 fights. But the plans have been foiled, as Billy Joe Saunders won a decision against Andy Lee, and because of that, ruined both Haymon and Jacobs' plans, as they didn't show any interest in fighting Billy Joe Saunders or trying to unify with him. considering the style Saunders has, and also he has different representation. He's promoted by Frank Warren, Queensberry Promotions. I'm not too sure if Frank Warren and Al Heyman ever done business, especially in recent history. So it just made a it just drew a wrench into their plans, and now that almost 5 months has passed throughout the year, Jacobs is still without a fight this year. He's going to be going on 7 months of inactivity by the time he steps in the ring, as he currently has a date for July 30th, but right now they're trying to finalize the opponent. And the only name that's being thrown around, according to boxing media, is a Sergio Mora rematch. I mean, this is Daniel Jacobs' reward. He ices Peter Quillen, and as a reward, he gets put on the shelf, sits for almost 7 months of the year, and then has to go backwards in his campaign. He has to fight Sergio Mora again, a tricky fighter who was not an easy guy to beat. I mean, he's up there in age now, but he's a tricky fighter. He's not a bad fighter. He just doesn't have the power. If he had power, he probably would be elite. But the guy's got some skills. He's got good defensive skills as well. He's been in there with top names. He's won a world title at a lighter weight. And he also knocked Danny Jacobs down in that fight. I mean, had Mora not broke his ankle or injured his ankle in the fight, who knows what would have happened. So Daniel Jacobs is taking a step back. He got the victory, and if I'm his team, I wouldn't want to do that again, considering that Mora put Jacobs down legitimately with a counter left hook. So possibly Daniel Jacobs, coming off 7-month layoff, to go in there against Sergio Mora, who is now pretty much healed up. He's ready to go, if that is the date, July 30th, on the undercard of Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton. Now, there is an excuse to why Sergio Mora is being considered as the opponent for Danny Jacobs, and it has to do with the budget. Showtime's already providing a large license fee for the purses of Carl Frampton and Leo Santa Cruz. I'm pretty sure those guys are getting 7 figures in order to fight each other. So that leaves little room for a decent opponent on the undercard for Jacobs. So perhaps that's why Mora is being considered, or perhaps another opponent. But we ain't going to get any big names. We're not going to get a significant fight. We're most likely going to get either a Sergio Mora rematch or somebody else of lower caliber, not even a named fighter. So a frustrating road for Danny Jacobs since coming back to the sport after recovering from his illness. Was slowly climbing up the rankings, was fighting carefully selected opposition until finally stepping up against guys like Mora and Peter Quillen his last 2 bouts. But Heyman hasn't been doing the job with him. He's been making him look like a bitch, giving the impression that Danny Jacobs has no intentions of wanting to fight Triple G. And right now they don't, as Jacobs' team has stated. They're not interested in fighting Triple G right now, especially coming off a 7-month layoff. They want a couple of warm-up fights, stay busy fights, and then maybe go after GGG later in the year or perhaps early next year. So Danny Jacobs is officially off the table for Triple G's next fight, as the WBA president, Gilberto Mendoza Jr., he reached out to both camps, to Triple G and to Danny Jacobs, to get a idea of where they're heading for their future plans. And right now, in the case of Triple G, if he can't get the Canelo fight, he's going to go after Billy Joe Saunders to unify all the belts. And for Danny Jacobs, he gave the plans to the WBA president, and they stated that they're going to take a fight July 30th, that they won't be ready for Triple G till perhaps the end of the year. So Gilberto Mendoza Jr. will withhold mandating the WBA mandatory title shot between GGG and Jacobs, and he'll mandate it at a later date, as he's gotten plans from both fighters of what their future plans are in the near future. And right now it's not towards each other. So the WBA president has to hold off on that mandated bout. But hopefully it can happen sooner rather than later. Jacobs needs a big fight. You know, he's not looking good with that bogus strap around his waist. Fighters that don't respect it, well, some fighters, especially guys with legitimate world titles, fans don't really respect it. They know who the real WBA champion is. So Jacobs needs to start doing something, needs to start getting in the mix of the middleweights, get some more significant fights, not in-house fights, fight guys outside of the PBC universe. See how he would do against a Eubank Jr. or a Triple G or a Saunders, any other top middleweights out there, not within the PBC. But it is what it is. Danny Jacobs returns July 30th, and perhaps a rematch against Sergio Mora that's not really needed and not really necessary. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.